Hello my all friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe my emotional voice story. No one ever thought of him as lonely. They thought of him as quiet, reliable, polite. The kind of man who always nodded, always listened, and never caused trouble. Lonely people, they believed, looked sad. They complained. They asked for attention. He did none of those things. His name was Daniel Foster, and if you asked anyone who knew him, they would say the same thing. He's doing fine. Daniel lived alone in a small apartment on the third floor of an old building. Nothing about the place stood out. White walls. Simple furniture. A couch that had lost its softness years ago. The kind of home that looked temporary, even though he had lived there for nearly 15 years. Every morning, Daniel woke up at exactly 6:10 a.m. Not because he needed to, but because his body no longer knew how to sleep longer. He would sit on the edge of the bed for a few seconds, staring at the floor, letting the silence settle. No messages. No missed calls. No notifications. Just silence. He would get dressed slowly, carefully, as if rushing might disturb something fragile inside him. Then he made coffee. Always black, always the same brand. Routine was comforting. Routine asked no questions. At work, Daniel was known as the dependable one. He arrived on time. Finished tasks without complaint. Helped others without being asked. When coworkers talked about their weekends, their families, their plans, Daniel smiled and listened. He laughed at the right moments. Nodded at the right places. No one noticed that he never shared anything about his own life. And no one asked. Daniel had learned a long time ago that people enjoyed talking about themselves far more than listening to quiet truths. So he stayed quiet. Years earlier, Daniel hadn't planned for life to turn out this way. He had dreams once. Not loud dreams, but gentle ones. He wanted a small family. A place that felt warm. Someone who would notice when he came home late. But life didn't break those dreams. Friends drifted away. Calls became less frequent. Messages stopped altogether. Daniel never blamed them. People built lives. He simply existed alongside them. His parents lived in another state. They spoke occasionally, birthdays, holidays, brief check-ins. "Everything okay?" his mother would ask. "Yes," Daniel always replied. Because explaining how empty a life feels when nothing is technically wrong is difficult. And because he didn't want to worry her. Loneliness doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives quietly. When you realize no one would notice if you didn't speak all day. Sometimes it arrives when you get sick and there's no one to bring you soup. Sometimes it arrives when you receive good news, and have no one to tell. Daniel felt it most strongly in the evenings. After work, he walked home through streets full of people. Couples holding hands. Friends laughing loudly. Families arguing affectionately. Surrounded by life. Yet untouched by it. At home, he reheated leftovers and ate in front of the television, not because he enjoyed it, but because the noise filled the space. Silence had a way of reminding him of things he tried not to think about. He told himself he liked being alone. That it was peaceful. That he preferred it this way. But liking something and getting used to it are not the same. On weekends, Daniel went to the same cafe every Saturday morning. Same table. Same order. The barista knew his face, not his name. "Usual?" she'd ask. "Yes, please," he'd reply with a smile. That single question was often the first time someone spoke directly to him all day. And strangely, he looked forward to it. Daniel once tried dating. Not seriously, just enough to remind himself he could. But conversations felt heavy. Explaining himself felt exhausting. And eventually, people drifted away when they realized he wasn't exciting. Wasn't ambitious, wasn't loud. He didn't blame them either. He just stopped trying. One winter evening, Daniel slipped on the icy stairs outside his building. The pain in his leg was sharp, immediate. He lay there for several minutes, staring at the dark sky, watching his breath form clouds. People walked past. Some glanced. Some didn't. Eventually, someone helped him up. "Are you okay?" the stranger asked. "I'm fine," Daniel said automatically. Even then, at the hospital, he sat alone in the waiting room. No one to call. No emergency contact who would rush over. Just him, and the slow ticking of the clock. That night, lying in his bed with a bandaged leg, Daniel felt something shift inside him. Not sadness. Something heavier. The realization that if he disappeared, truly disappeared, the world would continue almost exactly the same. Work would replace him. The cafe would serve someone else. The apartment would eventually be rented again. The thought terrified him. And yet, he told no one. Because loneliness, when hidden long enough, becomes part of your identity. You don't know how to speak it aloud anymore. So Daniel carried on. Smiling. Listening. Existing. And the world continued believing he was doing just fine.